Hi everyone. Dementia units can be extremely demanding places to work in, especially when dementia residents get aggressive. There can be bites, wrist burns, bruises, scratches, and to cope with this, so many injuries can happen in a day. So some are reported, but many are not. So to be able to cope with that long term and continue to work in a dementia unit takes an incredible strength of character. And aside from that, there's such a huge workload because it's, there's so many stresses going on all at once in a dementia facility. But if you can manage to get through that and hopefully not having lifelong injuries into the result, the team ethos, the team effort, the team synergy is fantastic, and you can learn so much. It's educational and incredibly inspirational working in a dementia unit. So just to give some examples of inspirational dementia residents when I was working at the facility that I was at and how I found the experience. I mean, as I've just mentioned, working with the team at the dementia facility was really a life-changing event for me, actually, a life-changing experience. I'd never actually experienced working with such a close team before in my working career. As a physiotherapist, which I was, lifelong pretty much, you're pretty independent when you work as a physiotherapist. Well, especially because I had a private practice for 25 years here in Christchurch, treating work-related injury, neck and shoulder pain and stresses related to that with the introduction of the computer industry way back in the 1990s. And then I had a practice in Sydney as well, working with neck and shoulder pain and some back pain. So all of that's pretty individual work. You do one-on-one with the patient. But when you're in a dementia unit, it's not one-on-one, it's one on many. And everything that entails, right through from meals to activities to, workshop events to movie nights, movie days, and on it goes. I mean, there's so many things that happen at a dementia unit, and really you need to be part of the whole mechanism when you're working there and working as a team within that. And because in New Zealand the staff are mainly in dementia units, mainly from Southeast Asia or South Asia, it's incredibly diverse, rich experience being able to work with staff from other countries, which you wouldn't get you don't really get that in hospitals to the same degree, certainly not where I was working as a physiotherapist. So that gives a richness to your work life, being able to learn about different cultures and work with different cultures. So that was a fantastic part of it that I found very inspirational and educational as well. But I also learned a tremendous amount from the residents, those residents that were able to hold their own, coming into the dementia unit, hold their own amidst the stigma and the prejudice of dementia. If a person is able to do that, they've got something special, to have the ability and tenacity and strength to be able to do that. And there were two residents in particular who were able to garner this, and I'll just mention to you about them. One was a former Army veteran, former Army veteran. There were actually quite a few men from the Army that came through this unit. Now, when he arrived, I was witness to him arriving, which is, the big moment, isn't it? The big stressful moment for most residents when they first get admitted. He came in, head held high, didn't waver. Not the first day, not the second day, not the first week, not ever. I never saw him get emotionally stressed. He kept that stability the whole way through, said goodbye to the family. There he was, that was it, in his last post, as he called it. Simple room, hardly anything in it. A chair, a bed, a clock, that was about it. But he had this remarkable ability to adjust. He put it all down to the Army. He said, you have to learn to adjust in the Army. Everything I've learned has been from the Army. actually, because of him speaking to me a lot about the army, I really became a lot more, my impression of the army became a lot higher after just learning from him, or seeing actually his practical application of what he'd learnt in the army. I found incredibly inspirational. His ability to adjust was remarkable. And because of that, he was able to actually help the other residents in the unit adjust as well, because you can't give to someone what you haven't got yourself. And his ability to, he had like an elastic emotional capacity, like whatever happened, he could just adjust within the moment. Like, for example, if he was laying down in bed asleep and you went into his room, he'd never wake up with a startle or turn over and ignore you. He'd just wake up and communicate in a really friendly way. So he was never disturbed. And seemingly in the army, you have to be like that. Well, you know, yeah, so many disturbances can happen in the army, whether you're sleeping or not. So you have to be ready for it, I suppose. And certainly he had imbibed that. And it was, I learned a lot from that, from him. And he talked about dementia actually, but almost as if he was a witness to it rather than a participant. It was quite incredible. You know, he'd say like, we don't have the opportunity to be able to walk outside here. He'd just say it just like that. Now, most people would say with great anguish, God, we can't get out of this place. I'm trapped. Is it a prison? What's going on? Can't I get out? Let me out. No, to him it was just, no, we can't get out in this facility. It would be good if we could, because it's educational and informative, but we're unable to unless a relative takes us out. Stable, so strong and stable. I'd never met anyone to that, you know, who was able to conduct himself, to talk about such emotive topics in the way that he did. And there was another former school teacher who was also very inspirational. She never let the stigma of dementia get to her at all. And as she said, I never let anything beat me. And she never did. She had so many, her sight was poor. She could hardly hear. She was early 90s. But she had the most incredible character, fabulous sense of humour. And, you know, she'd just soldier on. She only once let the guard down when she said once to me, oh, where are my family? You know, my brothers and sisters, they don't visit anymore, and I know they're in Christchurch. Then 1 minute later it was, never mind, chin up, onwards and upwards. That was it. Never heard anything of that nature again. So she made the most of everything, whether it was, you know, drawing on the serviette, at lunchtime, you know, she'd use paper napkins for her artwork, and she'd always be able to scrounge a pen or two from the desk for her colouring in work. You know, she didn't get a newspaper subscription or magazines, but she always had managed to be able to borrow a newspaper off someone or a magazine from somewhere. So she was always reading, always had an activity at hand. Her walker carrier was full of stuff that she was always, you know, involved in. So she was very inspirational. She wasn't so much the silent thinker as the army veteran was. She was more outgoing and, you know, social. But the two characters, nevertheless, managed to create a quality of life for themselves at the unit and not be affected by the stigma of being there. And as a result, I found that incredibly inspirational, and really that marked my time working at the dementia unit, these inspirational residents. I was so touched. In fact, that was why I've written these two books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, because I was so inspired by these people and, you know, felt that they so deserved to have a voice, the residents' voice, because of all the efforts they made and the achievements and their achievements. And so that's why I'm making this effort to write these books and do these videos, so these residents can have a voice, that being the purpose of it. So thank you for your looks and your likes and your support. I appreciate it.